Ynnk facial animation is an additional plugin which requires Ynnk voice lip sync to work, but can generate more complex animation. It works in Unreal Engine 5.5 and newer versions. Go to the.mocapstudio.com/plugins to download it. Then extract the archive either to Unreal Engine's plugins folder or to your project's plugins folder. Ynnk voice lip sync data object can contain a few layers of animation. Basic Ynnk voice lip sync plugin uses only one of them. Ynnk facial animation is for other layers. As we mentioned before, skeleton curves are the same curves, but converted to lower-level animation used by skeletal mesh, like morph targets. 2 extra animation tracks are generated by Ynnk facial animation plugin. First extra track is for additional lip sync animation stored in ARKit curves. To build final animation, we blend it with the same curves. Second extra track is for mimics, also in ARKit curves. We also can do speech recognition for emotions, which are saved in the third track generated by Ynnk facial animation plugin. Emotions can be applied via different pose asset, but just like for Visames, it's possible to generate this asset automatically. Final animation with Ynnk facial animation plugin contains of mixed Visame curves and lip sync extra curves, added mimics curves and emotions. In settings, we can adjust weight for all these layers. Let's look at the plugin settings, but start with the Ynnk voice lip sync settings. Make sure to enable Generate Phonemes Data checkbox. If you already create lip sync data assets before, regenerate them with phonemes data. Also, the animation targets map here must be initialized. Default values although work for ARKit-compatible models and MetaHumans. For MetaHuman and some ARKit-compatible meshes, it's better to reduce number of animated Visames. Absolutely required, minimum, is all vowel phonemes and BMP and VF sounds. There are 2 separate neural models to generate extra animation curves. They are part of the Ynnk facial animation plugin. LipSync's 9 model is always char to ARKit lips. As for facial N model, for English language use word to ARKit mimics on, and for all other languages, char to ARKit mimics international. Take a look at the load models on startup checkbox. Enable it. Otherwise, you need to manually initialize the plugin via Blueprint. Note, after changing any model, you need to restart the Unreal editor. Select pose assets with Visames and ARKit curves. For our ARKit model, we already created it in the previous video. MetaHuman has pre-existing ARKit curves asset. In animation sequence assets, the plugin can generate head animation together with facial animation. There is a Ynnk head animation modifier, which works for MetaHuman. If your skeletal mesh has another neck bones, you need to create child blueprint and put your bone's name in its default settings. Then apply your blueprint in the project settings. Also, to generate head animation, set the Animate Head checkbox. If you're planning procedural eyes animation, uncheck Animate Eyes here. Meta to Ynnk blend alpha parameter controls how we blend Visame curves from the basic plugin and extra lip sync track generated by facial animation plugin. Lip sync power controls overall intensity of lips animation. Facial animation power controls power of the mimics, extra track. And emotions animation power controls emotions layer, if it was generated. Note: auto-generated emotions pose asset for ARKit-compatible mesh is too exaggerated, so you may want to decrease this value. For MetaHuman, leave it as 0.6. Wave 2VC2 is a speech recognition model which replaces originally used VOSC. it provides more accurate timings. This means even if you want simple VSame-based lip sync but not satisfied with default quality, you still may install Ynnk facial animation plugin only to use Wave 2 Vec 2. Go to via mocapstudio.com, plugins 8AML, and under Ynnk facial animation, click Download Lip Sync Assets. You also may download emotions assets here right now or later for emotion recognition. Extract files from the downloaded archives, and via File Explorer move them to the content folder of your project. Then enable Wave 2 VC to select the model and tokenizer. You may use this model for any language, but note, in Ynnk voice lip sync settings with Wave 2 Vec 2, use only English language settings regardless of the actual language. Take a look at this voice lip sync data object. It was generated before with Vosk Toolkit. Now we regenerate it with Wave 2 Vec 2, and you can see subtitles now in uppercase. Let's test Wave 2 VC to generate basic lip sync for different languages.
Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained. This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Почему? Спасибо вам, хотя вы скорее просто наблюдали. Почему? Спасибо вам, хотя вы скорее просто наблюдали.
화장실은 어디에 있습니까? 나는 그것을 좋아합니다. 당신은 어디에서 오셨습니까? 나는 한국어를 조금 할 수 있습니다.
最新のニューラルネットワークでテキストを音声に変換します。仕事、ビデオ編集、ビジネス、広告、ソーシャルネットワーキング、エンターテイメントなどに使用できます。代わりにテキストを貼り付け、音声でダウンロードしてください。
And final layer of animation is emotions. I assume you downloaded emotion assets with Wave 2 Vec 2. If not, go to vrmocapstudio.com, plugins, KTEML, and download these assets as well. Let's generate emotions pose assets for our two meshes. One is with ARKit morph targets, and the second is MetaHuman. It's easy, and names of poses in these pose assets are compatible. They're already set by default in the emotion animation targets. Unlike VSame animation targets, here you can set separately weight of each emotions. And the last important setting here is emotion curve resolution, which is an interval in seconds between frames of emotion curves. Usually, it should be from 3 to 8 seconds. Since emotion recognition isn't very accurate, it's better to avoid small resolution. It may result weird mimics. 4-6 seconds usually works well. Wave 2 Vec 2 and emotions recognition models are quite heavy. If you ended part of development related to lip sync, it makes sense to disable them in settings to save some editor loading time. Ynnk facial animation plugin is mainly intended to create in-editor animation, although it also may work in runtime on Windows. If you don't need runtime features, make sure your Ynnk models are located in a separate folder, then go to Packaging, Advanced, find directories to never cook, and add the folder with models to the list. On the contrary, if you need to generate animation in runtime, in the additional directories to cook add content folder of the Ynnk facial animation plugin. There are two options to generate facial animation in Unreal Editor. You may either create usual Ynnk voice lip sync data asset alone, or create both lip sync data and animation sequence assets together.
Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained. This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
You also may use animation data modifier to adjust result or add facial animation to existing animation sequences.
The ultimate power in the universe. Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained. This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. Any attack made by
While using animation sequences is preferable option, it's also possible to play directly Ynnk voice lip sync data asset. But to do that, at first, we need to bake all animation layers to the single track. Bake function used settings from the project settings page here. Ynnk lip sync controller setup here is similar to what we created in the previous video. The only thing we need to change is the animation blueprint. Now we want to play baked track instead of Visame's track.
Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained. This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
To generate facial animation in runtime, use Ynnk Generate Facial Animation node. Note: it works only on Windows.
Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained. This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
And final feature of the plugin is Eyes Controller. It has two presets for ARKit compatible mesh and MetaHuman. You also need to specify bones of your skeletal mesh. Head and two eyes. You may use sockets for eyes if need. Default names are for MetaHuman. Eyes Controller has two functions. Set eyes movement enabled, turn on and turn off random eyes movements. Of course, we need to apply eyes animation in Animation Blueprint. The second function, called Set Eyes Target, makes character look at static location or follow any scene component. There is a blinking feature of the Eyes Controller. Let me show it on the ARKit compatible model. Setup here is very similar to MetaHuman. We set the same mesh for body and head, and for eyes I added 2 sockets attached to the head bone. Now, I create a simple timer with random delay and call blink function.
Почему? Спасибо вам. Хотя вы скорее просто наблюдали.
And that's all. Thanks for watching.